Hello, everybody. This is Sri from BizBuzz, What Matters the Most in Your Business, sponsored by My Work Belt. My Work Belt is a only software supporting running seamless operations for a small business, particularly service-based industry. If you are a small business owner that is in service-based industries such as HVAC or plumbing or marketing or consulting or coaching, check it out. It'll be the best tool and that will help you run all costs. Now, today we have a guest, Janice Brathwaite. And Janice is a Cambridge master's in human resource management. And she's been in the market working in multiple industries on how to engage the staff, how to create engaging content and engaging process so that the human resources, which is key to organizations, will be fully engaged and involved. And having unhappy staff is not good for any business, whether it's a small or big, particularly small businesses. Janice, how are you doing?
Fine, and thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
I am so glad you are on the show. Thank you very much. You have a great knowledge and great experience in human resource and managing different conflicts.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I wanted to first ask you, a lot of people, the buzzword these days is workplace transformation,
Right.
right? That's a major buzzword. So help us understand. Now, that may be a great word for the large corporation, but what
Right.
does it mean for small businesses?
I think even small businesses have a culture, an organizational culture.
Yes.
If you're working in a store, or you're working in a, on a as all businesses have a culture.
Yes.
And I really got involved in this because I was interested in. I asked myself one question: why haven't things gotten better for employees?
Mm-hmm.
And that really sparked me to start looking deeper into why that was. And
Mm,
I realized that after research and really, talking to a lot of people, that it really boiled down to the culture of the organization, the foundation of the organization. I
mm,
always look at it like a building. Every building has a foundation. And
right.
when your foundation is weak or there are cracks in it, there's a big good chance that that building's not going to stand forever. So
Absolutely.
what I do is I help organizations find out where those cracks are and then
Mm-hmm.
find out ways to fill the cracks or
That's right.
revise. And that really is about changing your outlook. Now, transformation covers a lot of stuff, so it's a big word. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think culture covers a lot of territory. Right now, I'm involved with intergenerational understanding in the workplace because there seems to be a lot of concern. There are five generations in the workplace right now, with another one on the horizon, and they're feeling like the organizations are feeling like they are not getting the best out of those five generations because they're not understanding what their needs are. And I also believe that using words like Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z is nothing more than stereotyping people. Once you've assigned a letter to somebody,
Okay.
that's what
Or a
you're going to
label.
look. That's what you're going to look for.
Right.
The person comes in for an interview. If you think, oh God, those Gen Ys, they're just
The
terrible.
millennials and Gen
they
X, Gen
want
Y.
they want everything. They're not loyal. They're blah blah blah. The whole nine yards. So I'm trying to get people to think differently about that. I'm trying to get them away from that categorizing because I'm doing a
Right.
presentation on Wednesday, and I wanted to find out why people have to categorize things. We like to
Yes.
categorize as human beings, put things in
That,
buckets. That's how we understand things. But that's good in some ways to do that, but
right.
it's bad in other ways when it becomes the bellwether for how you're dealing with that person. and what you're
No, it's true.
expecting from that person. Low expectations will get you low performance.
Low performance. So let me ask you this way. When it comes to small business, obviously you don't have 5 generations working in the same small business.
Right.
Maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
That I can't think of more than that. Now, what is the tips that you would suggest for the business owners who may be senior, but their employees are younger generation,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa? In the communication between two people, which has a major age gap that are anywhere from 10 to 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
is there a tip that you would suggest for them to pay attention to?
I would say the way to really address this is to develop understanding, and understanding comes through communication.
Yes, correct.
And if you're not communicating, your staff is not, maybe it's 5 people and 3 of them are, of a younger generation. There has to be understanding. They have to understand where you're coming from, and you have to understand where they're coming from. So I developed this tool. It's called generational synergy tool, which is like 5 questions that people can answer. And that is the basis for the beginning of a conversation about how I approach work, and I learn how you approach work. And then we kind of develop an understanding about our styles. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's just 5 people. If there's still, it can still be friction, as you know, in a small company.
Absolutely.
So using this tool will help people to begin the conversation, because I don't think we've had a conversation about this at all.
Is this a software tool, or is it a?
No, it's like an assessment. It's you can do it online, but it's like an assessment. It is an assessment of your style.
Where is it? Oh, how
anybody it's in my company developed it. So it's open to anybody. I'm not going to charge people for it. But it's a good way to begin the conversation. It's kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with employee resource groups.
Right. There are a lot of employee resource groups.
And this is a little bit more difficult in a small company, but I'm really encouraging them to use this tool as a way to begin the conversation about ageism and stereotyping and all the things that impact the individuals that are in that organization.
Understand. So when it comes to conflict, right, generally leadership group, manager of the company or owner of the company, they will have to handle the conflict at workplace, right? If they are in their conflict employee, that's one part. But if they are the leadership role, but there are 2 different employees who are in conflict with each other, what do you suggest the leadership role should do in resolving that conflict?
I think first of all, it's just what I would do is I would speak to them both individually to get an idea of where the breakdown in whether it's communication or work style has occurred. And once I get a firm understanding for that, I can bring them together and say, I know that, we've all talked, mine separately with you, separate with you. But I just want to hear, I want to just listen to what I heard in those conversations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you bring them both together and you say, this is what I heard. Now correct me if I'm wrong. So now both parties are listening. What is the third party taken from their side of the story?
Exactly. So what are they taking away? So, and once you can get them in the room and start talking, they may say, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it this way, just to clarify. So, and then the big question comes once you've flushed out all of that. So where do we go from here?
So as a leader of the organization, you will be posing that question to both parties. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go
from now? It is their obligation to figure out how to resolve that.
Right. You know,
Ah,
they know that the leader isn't, you know, involved and knows about it. So how are we going to fix this so
ah,
it's not, you know, it doesn't disrupt the whole organization because we
right.
can't get along. Because it's not, you know, if I was a leader, I said it's not benefiting either one of you. You
No,
know, you're both losing something by, you know, taking a certain stand or whatever. And we need to really focus in on how do we fix that? How
right,
do we change that?
right.
So I'm a coach also. I do coaching, and
Yes,
one of the things I've learned is as a coach, you don't tell people what to do. You get them to tell you what they're going to do.
certainly. You got to have a buy-in,
Yes, exactly.
right? So now, when they both come up with certain process of resolving that problem or conflict, right? What is the next step? What do you suggest?
I think the next step is just to observe whether that's actually happening, and if it's not, if they're not living up to what they said they were going to do,
Yes,
then there needs to be a conversation again about, well, you said that you felt that this was the best way to handle it, and
right.
that you were going to handle it, and I'm starting to see that maybe that's not really maybe not working for you, or it's not the right tack to take, but
Right,
one way or the other, we've got to clarify if you know how you're going to do this. How are we going to,
right.
because you have to work side by side with this person
Absolutely.
unless
Well,
you leave.
these days in a remote working environment, you don't have to work side by side, but you will have all kinds of chatter and
Oh,
chatting and
right,
jitters going on.
interaction,
Uh,
you know, yes.
right, right. Now, but that can be observed very clearly through the work results. So, if I summarize it here, you are suggesting the all organization, whether it's a small or large, they all have culture,
Yes,
and the culture is the foundation of the organization.
yes,
And foundation having cracks in the foundation is going to jeopardize the whole building into the
right,
risk. So
exactly,
culture is the foundation. So make sure there is no cracks in the culture,
right,
and there is a clear expectation amongst all of the people involved. So
right.
when it comes to the conflicts, as a leader of the organization, you take stories from both sides
Hmm.
individually, privately, and then you bring them together and say, this is what I heard from both of you,
Right.
and allow them to correct themselves or allow them to modify their story in front of
Hmm.
both parties. And that will help them to realize what they are saying is right, what they are saying is wrong, and then it clears the air. And in thus, the following step would, what you're suggesting is extremely powerful, in my opinion, that you tell them, both parties, is where do we go from here?
Right.
And that allows them to work together to build that relationship back to clear that conflict.
Right.
And thus, they both have a commitment of doing something together. And from there, you just observe whether they are really following through the commitment that they both made with each other.
Right.
Now, Janice, what a powerful technique that you shared within such a small time. That confirms the experience and wisdom that you bring to the table. I greatly enjoy our conversation. Thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent.